Hello, I'm Mickey Moulder, and as you can see, you will see eventually here, I like history, and I'm showing my collection that I put together over the last 25 years. This is a Roman helmet. This would have been a Roman citizen would have worn this, basically. This would be a centurion. He would have had 100 troops under him. And over here, well, here we'll continue. This is a gladius here. This is what the Romans used for about 600 years, stabbing sword. And this was really, they picked this up from the people that inhabited Spain about 150 BC. These are a lot of fossils that I picked up in Brazil sometime around 1978, 79. And these are probably 30 or 40 million years old. These are just, these are little scorpions and piranha from Venezuela when I lived there. There's a lot of crystal. You know, Brazil is dripping with this kind of stuff, but today it's difficult. You can't really go to Brazil and bring that stuff out, but when I was there, it was easily acquired. It's petrified wood. It's probably about 30 million years old, at least. But these coins here go back to about 370 BC. We've got one, and we've got Roman coins from Julius Caesar, 44 BC. The Anglo-Saxon coin, the 1066, the Battle of Hastings, that was the last year before the Normans conquered England. We've got Spanish coins brought up from the La Antorcha in 1622. So there's different coins here. These are not real, these are facsimiles, so middle-aged. From the Middle Ages. These are helmets, and this would have been what the court jester would have worn this. I think some of our politicians could be wearing these in Parliament. This is from the Conquistador period. You know, you see that even in the Vatican today, the Swiss guards will wear these kind of helmets. Up here, I don't know if you can see up here. This is a light Calvary Sword from 1795. It's British, it's Napoleonic. And if you see a heavy cavalry sword, it's even bigger. And you can picture the horses that they rode in Europe are not like the quarter horses we have today. They're shires, they're huge horses, you know, they're probably twice the size of a quarter horse. So you can picture somebody bearing down on you with one of these. If you look in the movies, you'll see people grab the guy on the horseback and throw him off the horse. Absolutely impossible to do. He would have cut you in two. As a matter of fact, they would say that one good blow from this could split you from your forehead right down to your sternum, just from the one shot. This is how powerful this stuff is. So Hollywood makes light of it, but cavalry was big time stuff. You know, a horse alone would kill you. I mean, they were huge. You've seen the shires in England. If you fell off one, you'd have a hard time getting up again. Yeah. They're huge horses. Like the Clydesdale horses, you know, that type. Yeah. This is 1805. This is a sword bayonet, and that's British. That's the first time the British had rifles, and they used these bayonets. And this still has the original scabbard from 1805. It's pretty rare. We have this is interesting too. This is the bishop's mace. You weren't supposed to take another Christian's blood.
Can we see that again?
The bishop's mace. So by hitting somebody in the head with this, you didn't bleed very much. You could bludgeon somebody, so they got away with it, you know. And I'll show you a crossbow over here. They were outlawed by the Pope early on, probably about 1100 AD, because they would actually pierce light armor and chainmail. So they thought it was unfair. So you weren't supposed to shoot another Christian. It was okay to shoot infidels and anybody that wasn't a Christian, but you weren't supposed to kill Christians with a crossbow. This is the Magna Carta, 1215, Runnymede, the foundation of our democracy. There's an English translation here that shows, it's very interesting, Article 11. You know, if you look at the Merchant of Venice, and you look at how the Jews were portrayed in the Middle Ages, Shylock, and the Merchant of Venice, and the usury, high interest rates, and things like that. But if you look in 1215 in the Magna Carta, it's right in there that if a person died, if a man died indebted to the Jews, the debt was canceled. So obviously they charge higher interest rates if that was the case, but it so often happens in history, we only remember, you know, the outcome, but you don't understand what built up to it, you know, so that's why I have that up there.
That's interesting.
Over here, we have a suit of armor from, this is from about 1560, 1570.
A little over to it.
This is Sir Cost a lot. That's my wife's way of saying you spent a lot of money, Mickey.
Now, is that an actual?
Yeah, suit of armor. This is German from about 1550, 1560. This is when you know they had gunpowder then, of course. So they had a breastplate here that was sloped armor, so that would deflect the ball. And the interesting thing is when you look at the tanks of World War I and World War II, it wasn't until the middle part of World War II that the Europeans understood that sloped armor, you know, it deflected a shot. And they knew this in the 1400s, 1500s, and 1600s, but somehow they didn't adapt to it in World War II until 2 or 3 years into the war. It's interesting. So that's why they didn't have the full suits of armor then, because they used leather gloves and leather boots because they had gunpowder. But this would deflect a shot, and at the same time, go over here again, a guy like this would have had 2 pistols, one in each his belt, and he was pretty heavily armored because he would have had this in his left hand. This is called a gauche. I guess that means left.
Yeah.
So he would have had 2 pistols. So if you were coming at him, he would get 2 shots off, throw the pistol away. Then you had a 42-inch rapier that you had to get past. And if you got inside of the rapier, then he would give it to you in the ribs with this. And then you still had. Then once that happened, you still had to get him, and he's armored. Mm-hmm. So. That's an interesting thing about armor. The only reason armor ever went away was not because of gunpowder. It went away because it was just too expensive. And that's when you see over here, the British and other people, they just went to plain cloth because it didn't take anything to train a person to shoot a musket. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you had a longbow or stuff like this, it took years and years. A longbow took you 20 years to learn how to really use it. And the British always used red because it was the cheapest color, cheapest cloth, easiest to dye. But in any case, you tend to think of armor as something that gunpowder replaced, you know, but it didn't. It was just became too costly.